Francis was amazing. There's a reason that he's a capital S saint, right? Like we're all small s saints. You are small s saints. He and others, the church has come to understand as being capital S saints. Perhaps some of you will in fact be capital S saints. Time will tell. But there's a reason why he was. We know a lot of his story. There's so many stories about him. We know that he gave up his wealth. He was born into wealth and privilege, and he gave up that wealth, and he gave up that privilege. And then he took up a life of poverty and a life of service. And we know his great acts of kindness and generosity and humility. And of course we know about his love for animals. That's what he's most known for, you know, the birds and the bees and the squirrels and all that, right? But we know less about his writings. At least I can tell you I know less about his writings. Perhaps Ray. Anybody here ever read anything that St. Francis wrote besides Ray? I certainly haven't. But this week, as I was thinking about all what I was going to say and all the texts and so forth, I did, in fact, come across this great poem that he wrote. It's called The Canticle of the Sun. Canticle meaning song, so you could say Song of the Sun, and actually it's also known by another name, the Song of the Creatures. And it is that very poem or song that was paraphrased for our opening hymn today by William Draper in the 1940s, I think. All creatures of our God and King, and so on and so forth. Dear Mother Earth. And it is a celebration of all the glory and dominion of God. In other words, it's all of creation that he's saying belongs to God, came from God, glorifies God, and we too then ought to live in the fullness of the joy that it means to live in all of God's creation and with God's creatures. So I won't read this to you because it's just boring to be read to. But he starts out and he talks about most high, all-powerful God, and yours are this and yours are that, and you alone are most high, and bless you through all your creatures. And then he goes on and he says, especially through my Lord, brother, son. And then he goes on and he says, praise to you, especially, my Lord, through my sister moon. And then he goes on, my brother wind and my sister water. See, all of these things we don't normally think of as being personified. Everything having the breath and the life of God in it. Brother wind, sister water, brother fire, sister mother earth. Great images. And he goes on, and it is said that he stopped somewhere after this idea about sister mother earth, and it was only later in life when he wrote the last part of this great canticle. And he writes this last part that says, praise be to you, my Lord, through our sister bodily death. So approaching death, he learns to praise even death. Blessed are those whom death will find in your most holy will. Praise and bless my Lord and give him thanks and serve him with great humility. So I thought it was so interesting. Now the story goes that when he was on his deathbed, having just recently written these last verses, he and his people that were around there, his companions, he rose up from his deathbed and sang with them this great last part of this poem, glorifying even sister bodily death. And then he fell back and died. Now, I don't know if that is exact history, but like so many things that we know, these great stories tell us great truths. It doesn't mean it's not true in the sense that great truth is true. The idea and the great thing about it, right? Imagine on your deathbed, rising up and glorifying God, not just for your life, but for your death, the thing most of us fear most of all. Falling back and saying, I die in you, Lord. Praise you for sister bodily death. I just think that is amazing. And that finally, he gave up everything in his life. He gave up his wealth and his privilege and all the stuff he ever had or could have had. And then even at the end of his life, he gave up this last thing, the only thing he had left to give. He'd given everything else away. The only thing he had left was this fear of death, and he gave it up. And then gave up his life. And I think that is extraordinary. So, If anybody ever walked the walk of the disciple of Christ, it was St. Francis. Now, the gospel text for today is always, for St. Francis' feast day, is always this part about, come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I think Francis is this great exemplar of giving everything up in our life and traveling life. He had no, to my knowledge, didn't have physical burdens. He didn't carry with him, a desk and a bunch of writing utensils and a bunch of Rima paper and a copy, all that stuff. He didn't carry things with him. He didn't own anything. He didn't have physical things he carried around. But perhaps he had emotional things he carried around with him. But even at the end of his life, he gave all that up and was at peace. So in our context today, what I wanted to ask you about and talk to you about was, what are we carrying around ourselves? Either things that are physical or things that are emotional that Jesus invites us to jettison, because his burden is light, his yoke is easy. The commercial is on all the time, what's in your wallet? What is in your backpack? I see kids today, right? Your kids. I saw Colin the other day with his backpack. What does he have in this? Gold. He carries golden bars, I guess. Book after book after book after book they put on. Now, I can understand if you're in college and you got to go from this side to that side, and you got to have all your stuff because you're not coming back to your apartment. But kids in high school carry these book bags. They're unbelievable, right? This is my image for what we carry around with us. Sometimes we're carrying around physical stuff that we just don't need. And this is truly an age thing. I think you spend the first half of your life, or maybe more, accumulating things. And then you spend the last half kind of getting rid of stuff, right? You guys will know what I mean. It's one of these first days. You're going to go from a big house to a little house. You're going to say, where did I get all this? And why do I need it? Right? Can I give you a little hint? Nobody wants it. When you're done with it, nobody wants it. Your kids aren't going to want it. Your grandkids aren't going to want it. Unless it's worth money. Now, that's different. But all this stuff is an age difference. If you get to be a certain age, you'll understand this idea about holding on to stuff is less important. But I have a lot to learn still. Most of us do. Some of us are hoarders. There's a whole spectrum, right? On this edge, hoarders, then savers, then keepers, then what I would say the good average middle part, and then there are people who can toss things out very easily, and then there are nut jobs like my wife who, honestly, our kids have told you got to nail it down at my house, or it's gone. You used it this week? Sorry. Anyway. But then at the very end of this spectrum, you have aesthetics, who don't need anything and don't keep anything. And they do it on purpose, right? Because they travel light. Now, so that's physical stuff. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit more about emotional stuff. What emotional stuff is filling up your backpack and is creating this heavy burden that you've been carrying around so long? And you could just let it go. You could. And you could lighten your load. What stuff is in there? What stuff from your childhood? I was telling the early service, when I was a young boy, I'm dark-skinned. And I remember being called a racial epithet that had to do with being mixed race. And I just remember that as though it was yesterday. Why am I hanging on to that, right? Why am I carrying, right? What did somebody tell you in your childhood that you could just let go of? What about stuff from your jobs, your employment? Right? Did you get a bad review one time? That's not who you are, right? What about stuff like from jobs you were in? What about stuff from friends or former friends? People that have hurt you, and are you holding on to those hurts? And are they so heavy that you can just take them out and don't carry them around anymore. Right? What about relationships? Ones you've had in the past that didn't go well. Can you let go of that stuff? Because it's just weighing you down, right? Now, some stuff hurts us so deeply emotionally that we have to have help with it. I'm not saying that some things you're just like, oh yeah, you know. Some stuff you need professional help with, right? But seek it, right? But what about the stuff you can let go of? What about stuff from your spouse from 20 years ago? When I counsel couples, I always say, I think the phrase I always heard was collecting stamps. You can't collect stamps. You can't. Every time you get in a fight, you can't pull out that thing they did 20 years ago. Cindy. I'm kidding. Joking. You're just the first face I saw. But stuff from your spouse. What about a former spouse? Those of you who are remarried, right? What about your own expectations of yourself? When I was a young person, I wanted to be this, and I'm that. What about regrets in your life? Are you carrying them around? What about sins? What about dreams? What about your fears that are weighing you down? I'm asking you if you would be willing to reach into your backpack, the thing that you carry around with you emotionally, and would you just pull it out and take a look at each one of those things and say, do I need this? And if you do, put it back in. But if you don't, let go. Right? Do you need it? Is it still serving you in your life? And do you want to continue to carry it around for the rest of your life? And how about this? Can you even imagine a way to let it go? Like, that's the hard thing. You ever watch one of these hoarder shows? Anybody? I do. I'm afraid it might be me. But anyway, I don't think I'm ever going to go on it. But the point is, if you watch them, do you ever watch how excruciating it is when they find, like, they got so much stuff you can't even imagine the stuff they have. And then they sit the person down, and then they say, and they bring over a little letter. And they're like, okay, what about this? And it's like from 1,000,000 years ago. And they're like, no, I can't let go of that. I couldn't possibly let that go. Right? We have that stuff. Right? But the whole trick is to say, can I imagine letting go of this? And then try it. Traveling light has always been a part of discipleship. Can you imagine letting go of your stuff? That's what Jesus said to the disciples. He said, when you go from town to town to town, don't take anything with you. Don't take that backpack. Can you think of one physical thing that you could just take out and let go of? Can you think of one emotional piece of baggage that you've been carrying around that you can let go of? Can you think of one person you can let go of people. Some people are just toxic. They just are. And you can let them go. Maybe they're not toxic to everybody, but they're toxic to you. And you can say, I just cannot do this in my life, right? It's okay. Life is not a sprint. Life is a marathon. It's a whole lifetime. And what I'm saying is, for the rest of your life, from today forward, can you imagine letting go of some of the stuff that's bearing down on you and causing you to stumble even? Let go of it. Make your life lighter. Give it up. The stuff, the pain, even the fear, and especially, you guys, the fear. Because that's what drags us down most of all. St. Francis died with a song on his lips. And here's what I think we can learn from that. Living free makes dying joyfully an actual possibility. Living free makes dying joyfully an actual possibility.